that going. Hey guys, my name is Liam
Hello.
Matthews, and this is my friend Tommy. We are starting our new news show. This will be our first stream, and let me actually get full screen going on Discord so be to see us a little bit better. I hope you like the UI and all the cover. We got live weather and live stocks going. Let me know if it's a little bit laggy or anything, or if audio's messed up or anything. Did a test stream before this, so we should be going pretty well. Let me get going. This is our weekly news show that we will be doing. Kind of like a Jon Stewart, a little bit of comedy with a little bit of local and national news up in there. By two young guys. I'm 26. I believe Tommy, you are 26 too, as well, right?
Correct. Yes.
Two young guys, new generation. We're gonna give an unbiased opinion. We're not really sponsored by anyone. We're just doing this for fun, on our free time. I have a full time job. Tommy's about to get into full time jobs as well. And we'll do Tommy's intro first.
Yeah. So hello everybody. I imagine everyone that's watching right now already knows me, but I'm Tommy Summers. I'm on various boards at the local and state level. I just took the February 2025 bar exam. Currently waiting my results. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to be on the show and to express my opinions on and tell you about local, state, and national news. So thank you.
And guys, I am Lee Matthews, like I said again. I kind of have a small history of production, only really from high school, from taking a lot of broadcasting classes where I went to high school. I have a history of my engineering degree, which is in civil and environmental engineering, which will probably come into play a little bit with the news and the stuff we'll be talking about. I got a long, different list of work experiences throughout the years, but obviously I do civil engineering now. I have a lot of different type of life hobbies, like gardening, video games, paddling, and grilling. This whole series will have different shows on the YouTube channel. So we'll have this show that will be on Monday nights. We'll have a Thursday night sports show, all around the same time except for weekend shows. So 8:30 to 9 for the weekday shows. And then I'm gonna try to do a video game stream on Saturdays. That won't be as consistent. That probably won't be weekly. And then Sundays we have our healthy life show with me and my friend Trevor. The Thursday sports show will be with my cousin Hunter. He's really into sports, so that should be a great time. I'm excited for that. Healthy life show with my friend Trevor. We'll be going through a bunch of different stuff about healthy living, from yoga, eating, just a whole bunch of stuff. And we love gardening, like I said, so we'll be talking about that. One thing we do want to say from me and Tommy, kind of like how all views of that we will say are kind of our own and our own opinions, and not a representation of any company that we work for, in the present, past, or future, or any party affiliate, political party affiliate. Um, and Tommy, you'll be starting off with our first topic today, which will be about county commissioner cuts for budget balancing.
Yeah, so I wanted to start off the show here with talking about the what I like to call budget chaos in Trumbull County. So, for those that are currently unaware, the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners is comprised of three men: Rick Hernandez, Tony Bernard, and Denny Malloy. And right now they are in a conundrum right now where they are trying to balance the budget and how this has all been playing out locally. And this is something I've been following for the past several weeks, and I wish to tell you about and to comment on, is just how insane and disorganized this whole process has been at and how it's just is just making our county um look ineffective. So for those of you that don't know, the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners are both a legislative and an executive body. So they both make the laws. They have the power of the purse, and they also, are an enforcement body as well. It's one of the weird sort of um, aspects of local government that is seen in all but two counties in Ohio. So what we're seeing right now is it's very simple. It's just that the numbers don't add up. They don't add up to a balanced budget. And it's creating this situation where they're either going to A, have to cut services, which is not good, or they're B, going to have to raise sales taxes by 0.25%. So And what I really wanted to comment on and to um, talk about is just sort of the blame shifting that I've seen going on from the county commissioners. So, one county commissioner, a guy named Tony Bernard, you know, all he can bring to the conversation right now is complain about how this problem was not addressed 2 years ago. Well, the fact of the matter is Mr. Bernard was elected to solve this problem right now, and he is not contributing to any sort of solution to the county when every single commissioners meeting he talks about this should have been addressed 2 years ago. This should have been addressed 2 years ago. Well, it wasn't, and now it's your job. That's why you were elected to fix it. The other the other sort of public uh, thing I've read that I think is noteworthy is sort of the shifting of blame that we are seeing, particularly from Commissioner Denny Malloy. Commissioner Denny Malloy, what he is doing is, I will just read you out a quick quote here. Let's see. So I can't find it right now. It's in a wall of text, but I'll just summarize. So what Commissioner Malloy is saying is, you know, at the end of the day, if what we're going to do as the county commissioners results in layoffs at these county departments, that's ultimately what he's saying is this is ultimately on the individual department heads. And that is just a ridiculous statement for several reasons. It's ridiculous because the commissioners control the budget. So how I like to explain the situation is the commissioners are controlling a dam. They build a dam, and one side of the dam is all the money. And they have to decide how much money gets through. So if they only let through enough money for 10 people, but there's 12 people working for the county, and you say it's up to the department heads to decide what to do with the money and if they're going to lay people off or not, it's essentially just it's a false argument because you're only giving them enough resources to hire or to maintain 10 of 12 employees. So while it's factually true that the individual department heads, are in control of their budget, they're making requests to the county commissioners. That is not to equivocate that with they're in charge of laying people off or not. That's just not true because they're not being provided the funds to provide these services to the citizens of our county. So you have that going on. You have sort of, again, like I previously said, to reiterate, Tony Bernard, who is just spending these commissioners meetings complaining about why these problems have not been addressed 2 years ago, even though that's why he was elected to do it. So that is essentially what I wanted to highlight with what is going on here at the county commissioners.
Makes sense, and I like what you're saying with the dam. That makes a lot of sense too, for resources and how to pay for people. And some people will say, well, do they need 12 people? But I feel like it kind of like it all depends. Like we talked a lot about, and we're going to be talking about here too. Our counties do provide a lot of resources and services for us, especially with the taxes that we pay. So that's something that I find interesting with that argument
Yeah.
as well, because a lot of I kind of in our docket I put a lot of examples of how much for basically top 10 to top 0.1% pay in taxes, and how it just has dropped drastically since 1968. And a lot of it too is just like county taxes and just what people individually pay as well, and then corporations as well, like we've talked about, and everyone should know. Because in 1940 they tried to basically change the corporate tax rate, increasing it from 19 to 33%. And I think they were even doing it for a while, like 30 to 40 to 50, and then bringing it back down. Or I might be a little bit too high on that. And it might have been 20 to 30 to 40, and then bringing it back down. But right now, if we keep what did Trump make corporate taxes 21%?
It's around 20% in the last administration. President Biden implemented a minimum corporate tax rate of 10%. I'm by no means a tax expert with this kind of stuff, but certainly, when you're looking at the top marginal rates of the after the New Deal era, the New Deal era up until Ronald Reagan, they were 80, 70%. And you know what we're seeing right now is I believe that the minimum corporate tax rate is 10%, which of course is a far cry from the high watermark of the upper 80s when corporations pay their fair share in taxes to support public services.
Hmm. And I know like some corporations, if they produce materials or certain type of goods, they get even higher taxes. So that's probably how they got to like that 10% rather than being a 21% or building cars and stuff like that. Um, but like if we're talking about actual services that these governments provide, a lot of people don't realize, and like I always tell a lot of people this, and this is what I love to say, is that a lot of people don't realize that these cities get so massive. So a city like Youngstown or Warren was so massive back when these areas were booming with steel mills and when Packard was here and Delphi was booming back in the day. But eventually, a lot of people left. You know, people moved to Tennessee, to like any different type of state, Texas, different reasons for GM or whoever they were working for at the time. And like Lordstown closing was a big deal too. So like they have these like massive cities with massive infrastructure, like they still have to upkeep with fractions of a population at sometimes. I know Youngstown lost like 100,000 people in 10 years, didn't they? Which is crazy to think
Yeah,
about, but like that's a lot of
it was a
infrastructure and taxes you're going to be losing.
and you know when we're talking about local taxes, what we're talking about here with the Board of Commissioners is a 0.25 sales tax increase, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm generally not a fan of sales tax. It's a regressive tax. It hurts poor and middle income people more. But
Mm-hmm.
what I think we have to ask ourselves here, and what ultimately is on the burden of the Board of Commissioners to determine, is what sort of county do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a county that only has 10 spots for dogs at the dog warden? Do we want to live in a county that needs a new 911 center? Do we want to live in a county that various services are not getting the funding they need? So it's ultimately going to be a balance between, you know, raising taxes, which or cutting services that people rely on.
Mm-hmm. And like a lot of some of these services are also like funded by state or federal funds that have come through for certain other programs for health or infrastructure. Like in my personal field, I work in a lot of municipal jobs and even some private. But a lot of these municipal jobs wouldn't even go through if it wasn't for any type of state funding and sometimes even federal funding, depending on the price and the type of project. Um, so I definitely feel like kind of like what we were talking about before. It's interesting how we're paying less taxes overall, and it's kind of helping less overall. Um, because we just kind of need it at this point. Like I was saying with the cities and this crumbling infrastructure, like not many like modern cities should have lead water lines, but all of them still do, and it's gonna become impossible at a point to replace them price wise. But and it's kind of already we're kind of like already at that point because of certain things, um, and like certain like mind thoughts, like certain social ideologies with it. You know what I mean? Like obviously, like if we wanted to replace all the lead pipes, we could, but it's all about money and with a cut in taxes and like us not paying our fair share of taxes. I consider like I'm not saying like we should all pay 50% of taxes, but a little bit more because like I always say, people like back in the day, a lot people as a whole were a lot more communal and community based and helped out the community a lot, and like we don't see that much anymore. So like as the community gets hurt, like the government has to pick that up, and like even like areas around here, I've learned so much about like there's been 1,000 gas companies in Ohio that went bankrupt, and if they have a well in someone's backyard, who takes care of that? Like the owner can't really take care of that, so the state has to take care of it, cap it, and wait to fill it. And like that's kind of messed up, but that's just how life is of capitalism.
I think when you're thinking about taxation and public services, it's very useful to be able to take a step back and think about these services because many people say, and I strongly disagree with this, they say, why should I pay for there to be busing? Why should I pay for there to be a dog warden? I don't have a dog. Why should I pay for senior services when I'm 26 years old? But you have to ask yourself, you know, we are a society of people that need to rely on one another and that need to care for one another. So, for instance, I'm from the townships. Okay, I there's no way that there's ever going to be a city bus coming through my township. Okay, but am I a strong supporter of the WRTA because they provide critical services to the people in the cities? Absolutely. So we need to move beyond this sort of mindset of me, 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 me. What do the services provide me? We need to think more broadly about the health of our community, the health of our fellow citizens. And to accomplish that, these services, first you have to have that mindset, but also these services have to have adequate funding. And
Mm-hmm.
those two issues are closely linked together. And we just have to ask ourselves, what kind of county do we want to live in? Or do we want to live in a county that provides services? Or do we want to live in a county that is just exercising Doge like cuts like Mr. Musk? In they're going to pursue an agenda of just the downsizing of government at the expense of all of these services that people, particularly lower income people, rely on.
I agree, and like it's something I always tell people too, because like I'm all for helping disabled people. Me being able, like having a good body and a family with a lot of disabled people makes me feel like I should like try to help them out taxing wise too. And like we're talking about services for buses, but it's also like sidewalks to get there. I always tell like a lot of people say like, oh, well, we need sidewalks for schools, we need sidewalks for this, but you got to pay money to do it, and a lot of those are county jobs or they're the local jobs. And something I learned at my job now is like, let's say like I moved into a township that didn't have sidewalks, or even a city that didn't have sidewalks, and I wanted sidewalks on my road, and people on my road said, let's do it so kids could get to school, and it connects to a connector sidewalk. Like everyone on that road would pay for that sidewalk. So like then that's more money. You know, you're talking about a couple thousand, probably a $45,000 job that you're gonna put to sometimes 20 houses to benefit 20 people. And like it definitely needs done, but there's a reason why. Even when I worked for a county before in the past, a lot of these county jobs are federally funded through programs to basically like make sidewalks to connect schools. And Warren has like a great sidewalk system for their schools, but there were areas that work needed improvement on Elm Road, basically, or by Elm Road. So that's kind of how I
Yeah,
feel too. Like we need to protect our people. Like we need to pay taxes to do stuff like that for like buses and just improve our infrastructure. Because a lot of people don't know like a lot of this stuff isn't even ADA, which means like it can't even like pass someone in a wheelchair going past it. There's certain thing engineering wide grade percentages that you have to pass for ADA, and even like ODOT's more stricter, a little bit. That like you kind of need to do, and like a lot of these areas aren't that, and like so unless we even expect these people to go there, like we gotta improve.
absolutely. And it's just one of those things where we need to come together, a community, realize that people rely on these services, and sort of reject this mindset of why am I paying for a wheelchair ramp when I have legs? That's essentially what some of these people are saying when it comes down to it. That's
Mm-hmm.
boiling down their point by quite a bit, but that's what it comes down to. And we need to think more broadly about what we value as a community, and the services that people rely on, instead of just pursuing um, cuts. And we're seeing this locally here because of fiscal constraints, but we're also seeing it at the federal level. Cutting USAID, cutting various jobs, park
Mm-hmm.
rangers, all that sorts of stuff.
And
And
like, kind of like you're
it's
saying with
just
Tony, like you can't really, to me at least, say, "Oh, why didn't we do this?" Because you can't say like you can't complain about the past, and then you can't do extremes. So you can't say, "Oh, why didn't we do this 2 years ago?" when it matters now, and you need to actually like have a solution for the future. And then your solution can't be extreme either; it has to be slow. Because to me, like this, like now, if you do major cuts, it's gonna affect people majorly. Like if they really want to take, is it 800 billion for Medicare or is it 800 million? Because I don't know if they spend $1 trillion on Medicare every year. I wouldn't be surprised.
for at the federal level,
Yeah.
it's I don't know the exact amount, but I know like I think Medicare and Medicaid are by far the largest federal expenditures from the federal government. So I don't know the exact amount, but I know it's the largest expenditure.
But they're talking about cutting that like by a lot. So like if that happens, like people will affect that. Even if there's more services like social services that they're missing, and then even like public services that they're missing.
At the federal level, what we're seeing here is essentially what Commissioner Malloy is employing. As I previously talked about, the commissioners they're trying to only allocate a certain amount of money for these departments, and they're trying to shift blames onto the department heads for any resulting layoffs. Well, what we saw in the last uh, budget that got passed from the House of Representatives is, they're cutting the Department of Health and Human Services, and they're not saying how this money needs to be cut, but they're only
Mm-hmm.
providing enough money that they have to cut Medicaid, which provides health care for low income people. So it's the same sort of strategy that we're seeing from the Trump administration being used by Commissioner Malloy to justify, or not to justify, but to shift blames on the Board of Commissioners' responsibility. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah, I agree on the kind of like we've talked about and we'll talk about is a lot with um, for local ability, like for local government's ability to run in an efficient way. Because that's one thing I really don't. I get upset too because I've worked for different branches of state governments is what I'll say, and even local, um, like county level. When I said I worked for a county, I worked for county engineers. I've seen how government efficiency is and like business efficiency, and I've worked on the private side in like fast paced, more stressful, burnout type of jobs, and now I'm working on a little bit more laid back job. I definitely like feel like the government's not like what people say like it's inefficient. It has its efficiencies and it has its inefficiencies. But I feel like businesses are like that too. Like I've seen businesses be crazy slow with certain things and then be crazy fast and efficient with other things. And even people within those businesses, just like a government, be crazy efficient with a new thing or be crazy inefficient with a new thing. And it's all dependent. It's all vast. So I feel like, especially now, and especially since we haven't paid like our taxes, like it's not really fair to be like the government's inefficient when like we could physically see outside by like roadways and how water is and water sanitary lines or like physical infrastructure according to like ASCE and all these civil engineers is like deteriorating. Like our government's kind of like that too if we don't properly fund them. So if you keep cutting them and then say why are they inefficient, any business would be like that too. If you cut businesses and then try to reach an unattainable goal with like less amount of people. So like I feel like we with any amount like it should be fair and treated equally.
For sure. And if there is inefficiency in government, if there is true inefficiency, if you have a if whether it be the state or federal or local government, if you are faced with a situation where it's like a lost cost fallacy, where you just keep throwing money into something that's clearly not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not providing a service to the system. Cut it. Not everything, in government is, needs to stay in place. There may be grants out there that are not providing the right sort of incentives, and they need to be replaced or removed. But certainly what we're seeing at the federal level, where Elon Musk is hiring people that's younger than me and you, 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and they're essentially just doing control F searches on government grants. That's not the way to run a society. And I hope that sort of mindset of cutting for the sake of cutting and not caring about the reduction of services doesn't doesn't manifest itself here locally at the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, I agree. Because like it's like a new type of political wave that they could also be like we need to cut everywhere and like that would really affect things too. But kind of like even with Elon Musk and all that stuff with Doge, like it really affects local communities because some of these projects needed to be done, and they weren't paid to be getting done anyway. So the federal grant, the federal money for it is basically the only reason why it gets done. I've seen it firsthand on jobs I've been paused by these cuts or lost from these cuts. But then it also like I kind of figured what I was gonna say there, but I think it kind of also affects, like with a lot of people are saying what they care about and what they want done. Like you can't get sidewalks done if you're not gonna fund it. Like I'm saying, it's weird. A lot of these projects that get done are kind of like Arnold Palmer's, and like 50% local money, 50% state or federal. And a lot of times that state money is because the feds are giving them money, or each state gets money for infrastructure from the federal government. Um, so it's like unfair to be like, oh, we need sidewalks, we need, better schools, better downtowns, all this other stuff done, but no money. And then we're just gonna cut, cut, cut. Oh, but like I was gonna say before, it also means you're gonna spend more, because some of these guys aren't gonna like be okay with it. Some of these cities and municipalities, they already spent millions of dollars preparing for that project to get done, or like revitalizing certain areas for that project. So a lot of these places will just sue if they like don't get the money and lose the money. And states are even talking about that. So I feel like these cuts, like that's what I was saying before, needs to get done slowly and not in a fast pace without thinking, because like a lot of times there could be retaliation done because those cities and people like want that money, just like with the states.
Yeah, first you have um, I believe in the power of government to help people and improve people's lives. If we go back, this was not on the docket, but I'm going to bring it up. If we go back to um, my political thought classes that I took in my undergrad, the whole idea of the United States was based on John Locke's theory of in the state of nature. We formed a society because we wanted to better our not only our own situation without government, but also improve the situation of other people around us. And that's what it comes down to. That's the purpose of government. The purpose of government is to provide services to people so they can live their best lives. And these cuts based on austerity, whether it be at the federal level, the state level, or the local level, if you really think about it, um, they're against the political philosophy that our whole government was founded upon, which is that we come together, we leave the state of nature, and we're doing that because we not only want to make our own lives better, but we want to make the lives of other people better as well.
I agree with that. And like kind of like maybe I don't think it's like the democratic view of it, but it's my personal view. Like I definitely want government cuts, but like what we've been screaming about for years, it's not going to be cuts to things that we actually need, like for VA. Like that's one thing we've talked about, and it's not on the docket. But like I've personally seen projects cut for the VA that were for mental health, suicide, like in VA hospitals, and like
Yeah.
now they're cutting VA staff. So like a lot of these like hospitals where these same people we say care about that go and protect our country, that go and get crazy cancers because a tank blew up or they lived by a burn pit, and they come back, like we should care about those people. And it's like we were saying, like I understand that there's corruptness, like there's corrupt people in the government, but I kind of treat the government just like I treat business, and that like there's corrupt people in business, but that doesn't make all businesses bad. So like we're saying, all government's not bad, and like the whole purpose of it's to help people. So like I was saying before, like why would we cut in good areas rather than cut like what we want, which is like military spending? That's all we want. Like, is like maybe let's stop on the imperialism and shorten off on that a little bit. Where if there's to be amount of like I think we had like for a while like was it 800 military bases across the country? Well, like
Around there, yeah.
we just need to cut that down, like the amount of spending to that, and even like Eisenhower said, the military-industrial complex was going to be an issue, and it still is because they kind of control a lot and like lobby so much money that I would much rather cut stuff like that than for stuff they've been cutting.
Yeah, you have to look. No one is in favor of throwing money at something that's not in the interest of the United States. That's not in the interest of the state or local government. You have to look at what does this provide. What does this provide the citizens? What does it provide the government? Does it keep us safe? Does it provide a critical service? If it doesn't do those things or it's not doing it well, you know, you can cut it and create a new solution to this problem. No one
Mm-hmm.
is arguing for blind obedience to blind obedience to policies that don't work. But to say that, hey, the national parks aren't working and we're gonna cut the park rangers, like that's just insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's just cutting. So they can free up more money to do tax breaks for the ultra wealthy. That's what
Yep.
that is. It's
And like, I think today Trump announced, or maybe last week it came out today, that they're trying to cut a bunch of land in national parks. I don't know if it's for drilling or just probably not for wood because we don't need wood around here. Like we could buy it cheaper anywhere. But places that cut it cheaper, I mean. But kind of like what we knew before, like China owns a lot of our land in national parks, and Joe Biden tried to make it where you couldn't drill on it. So we'll have to see. I think we're good to go on to our next topic, though, if that works for you, Tommy.
That's good with me.
All right, our next topic would be House Bill 160 and Senate Bill 56. Did I say those right, Tommy?
Yes, you did.
They're both bills. I don't know if they had fancy words for one and not the other. So a lot of this, both of these kind of go into recreational marijuana in the state of Ohio, which issued passed 2 years ago in the state of Ohio, with 57% voting yes. So basically, if state houses and I guess for state senate are trying to pass bills that will restrict and make it a little bit harder to grow, how many plants to have, how to smoke in public, stuff like that. Before we start all of this, there's been even a lot of state house Republicans have been saying how they feel, and we've talked about this before, how they feel like a lot of people wouldn't understand what they were voting for. But I feel like with the amount of ads and information out there nowadays, it was pretty easy to understand what you were voting for, and even the bill itself was a bit like a page and a half. So a lot of the stuff, even they're trying to reduce how many plants, that was strictly in the bill. I remember that. So you kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And I already know already they've went back on the the local tax change, which was interesting because I go to the city of Gerard council meetings, and they were basically every city in Trumbull County that was gonna have a dispensary was ready to send letters to the governor, and they were already talking to the state reps since all of this stuff came out. So House Bill 56 would basically prohibit smoking marijuana in public, and then also limiting Ohioans to partaking in their private residence. It reduces the state agreed 12 plants to 6 or less. Right now it's 12 or 6 a person. So if you have 3 adults in your house, you can't have 18. 12 is your max. It also disallows sharing, which is crazy, but I also kind of get alcohol, at a bar, they don't allow that sometimes, but in a private place, that's kind of crazy to me. One thing, it also limits, we were talking about concentrated THC products and how high the concentrates of a THC could be. They could basically go from 99%. That's expensive though, but then they would basically be maxing out this new rule for plant products at 35. And 35 is still high. You can only get plant THC or flower at 31 to 35. Concentrates, they're trying to max out at 70%, which we were talking about before. I actually kind of don't like that max out. For the bud, I kind of understand. Anything higher than that's crazy for 35%. But for concentrates, like we were saying, I kind of consider it beer and liquor, where flowers beer and then concentrates are liquor. But since THC is higher percentages straight up from flower anyway, we can't really treat it a 4% cores to a 20%, 40% liquor, even stronger. But for 70% concentrates, I don't like, because then they're basically gonna have to add fake stuff in there to get that 30%. Where if they wanted to get it where it naturally is, where you can get 92% to 99, that other leftover stuff is kind of just from the plant itself. Well, they won't get enough to actually get that over 30%. One thing I do like about the bill, it will streamline the license process for dispensaries. I don't know why that already hasn't happened. Because the state of Ohio has had medical dispensaries for years now. It eliminates level 3 cultivator licenses, which I guess are also known as social equity licenses, which I guess they give out based on social equity. So based on your status and certain things, you might be able to get a license, which I actually obviously, as liberals, I don't like that. People don't really tend to understand that equality doesn't really always mean that we treat everyone equal straight up from now on. Due to our past, and especially as white people, educated white people, we kind of both understand, me and Tommy, that our really bad past we have to make up now, and make up little by little, or every day, every year. That's just for life. So stuff like equity and equality, like I'm fine with, but like basically, like we got to give them more opportunities than we give ourselves because we took away those opportunities in the past from them. It would prohibit licensure of everyone of a convicted felony. I wonder if that means like for growing or for medical licenses. I'm guessing medical licenses you already can't. Puts a ceiling on how many dispensaries could be in the state, set at 350. I don't like that because obviously like lots of big cities will get them, and then 350 might not be enough based on what we need. I don't know what state of Ohio gives out or what the total liquor license number is. I know they are strict with it, but it should kind of match that. Like we talked about, it clarifies that drug-free workplaces are not violating the Ohio Civil Rights Law protections by firing someone for cannabis use. I find that interesting because other states that have passed legal cannabis have made this a clarified law that you are allowed to like basically not pre-test for marijuana. I know like California, Denver's like that. Um, Last one is it creates packaging and advertiser regulations such as bearing edibles from being like a realistic fictional human, animal, or fruit. So I guess the edibles can't be like fruit snacks or bat snacks. It's got to be squares. So, but that might be like SpongeBob, and that's a fictional human. So dang. No SpongeBob craft edibles for you.
And what's important to note with all of this is all of what you just described is directly against the will of Ohio voters. And Ohio voters, regardless of what the Republicans in Columbus say, they understand what they voted for. Okay? And in fact, if they didn't understand probably because Frank LaRose rigged the ballot language to make it sound more extreme than actually issue two was. I don't know that, but that would be my suspicion if there was truly someone out there that didn't know what they were voting for. But people did know what they voted for. And the fact is, 57% of Ohioans voted for this. They voted for recreational marijuana. They voted for a reasonable taxation rate to fund social equity programs. Um, and the will of Ohio voters should absolutely be honored. Now, if I'm just giving my personal take here, if there's some limited things that the General Assembly would want to do, if let's say I don't know, let's say they want to make it so that um a dispensary can't be they want to up it to half a mile from a quarter of a mile from a school. If there's a good reason for that, these sort of limited changes, that's one of the few benefits of issue 2 being implemented as an initiated statute. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is that we're seeing right now is the legislature, the General Assembly, the state Senate, they're not honoring the will of Ohioans. They're trying to undermine the will of Ohioans. If they're going to make any changes to issue 2, they need to do so as a partner with the people that actually enacted this initiated statute and not try to undermine what they voted for. And just saying that they didn't know what they were voting for, that's just completely wrong. That's just completely wrong. They were presented with a ballot summary. Again, that ballot summary was written by a board called the Ohio Ballot Board. So, so it was
Mm-hmm.
probably a uh, a it was probably a summary that was designed to encourage a no vote. It didn't work for issue 2. It didn't work for issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
So these people, they literally ran a campaign. That's what they're doing. They were running campaigns on confusion. They were running them in the past. They run them with issue 1 last year, which tried to mess gerrymandering. So at the same time, they're saying people don't know what they voted for. They did know what they voted for. But if there was any confusion, it was because Frank LaRose and Ohio Republicans created the confusion. So
No,
give
I
me a
agree.
break.
And
We
like
just need
it was
to.
your take on um, like close to a school. I get what you're saying with that. Since like that, but I think that would always be a local zoning thing, because basically any local zoning that's gonna like put a school in like a dispensary into local zoning code would basically put it with like alcohol. Um, because I've seen it. I've worked in like Denver and Red Hat, Denver and like Lakewood, which is an area outside of Denver local zoning code. A lot of times they put them with sex shops, You know what I mean? So like they can't be by schools doing very specific areas in the zoning
Yeah.
map. Like it's like for special type of commercial retail or like it's for most restricted, which I get. You know, like a lot of it look like a gun store. You know, you're not allowed by a school, which I get. I really like for states should really only be trying to, I guess, concrete for laws that we agreed on and like voted
Yeah.
in. Because like a lot of this goes to the local areas anyway. You know, we're seeing Hubbard, Howland, all these areas that are able to vote, all right, and vote if they wanted marijuana in their city, if they wanted dispensaries in their city. I know Gerard wants it. Obviously, Niles wants it. They have a couple now. So obviously, like, these cities want the tax revenue. They don't have a problem with it. They have a lot of liquor stores. So I find that fine. Now going to House Bill 160, a lot of the House Bill 160 stuff is basically the same as the other one. Some of the different stuff is for grow limits for Ohio's largest cultivators at 100,000 square feet. For growing, that's kind of not a lot. Like I'm just being honest. Like a lot of places are grown indoors in an indoor warehouse, so it's not really like you're growing outdoor where you need acres. 100,000 square feet's 2 acres, almost basically. It's about 90,000, a little less is 2 acres, a little more. Sorry. Um, so making a 2 acre warehouse like you feel like is a lot, but I'm just being honest. I've made like $1 million, a million square feet warehouses for Amazon before, like single ones and then like triple ones, and like FedEx has like million square foot warehouses on 100 acre sites, even bigger, probably 300 acre sites. It does keep a state sales tax at 10%, which I like. It allows people to smoke anywhere under residential property and share with their friends while they're visiting. Basically, share what they grow. But like that's for one thing. It's very hard for the state to like differentiate, know the difference between what you buy in a like dispensary versus what you grow. You could always say like you put your stuff in that bag, or they won't really care. They won't even be in your house for that unless someone gets hurt. Which I kind of get, kind of like with liquor. Or if you're like a bartender, if someone gets really drunk and hurts someone, you could be liable for that. Which I get that. If you're smoking with your friend and your friend's never smoked before, and he's gonna leave your house 5 minutes later, like don't do that. Like be smart. Just let him stay, or don't let him even do it if he has to leave. And then this was kind of talking about before. You were talking about how they would change how the sales taxes would go away from the host community cannabis fund, and like other areas that help out us locally, and it would put it in the general fund, which I do believe that's kind of what like Denver did at the start. But then Denver got so much money from it, and they were one of the first states to do it besides California, that like they ended up switching it after that. Like only a couple years they kept it in the general fund and then switched it to more lucrative funds. Um, and it says define and regulate the sale of intoxicating hemp products. I think that's about all that, like the Delta 8 stuff and the like creatine or whatever they call it, other fake crap. Which me and Tommy have talked about before. I know I personally I agree a lot with it. Like you shouldn't be taking, even though like it is natural, and it might help you. Like it, like a lot of places kind of like sell it fakely, or like say they're selling weed or like regular cannabis, and they're actually selling that stuff. Or so kind of all depends. But you can give your inputs, Tommy. So I was talking for a
There's
minute.
no, you're good. I just there's also this third proposal. So the governor Mike DeWine submitted this proposal for his yearly budget, which also tried to claw back a lot of provisions of issue two. You know, to be very clear, Governor Mike DeWine is no friend of issue two. He was no friend of issue one. I still have that ad envisioned in my brain where it's him and Fran DeWine, his wife, saying issue one goes too far. So he's by no means a friend of issue one or issue two. Um, and but actually, what his proposal does is not only does he want to take the tax money away from local communities, he wants to like earmark it for building more prisons, which is just absolutely insane. Like as someone who has done some reentry work. Of course, I can't give specifics, but I've done reentry work under the supervision of an attorney. Um, People they suffer long-term consequences from just little convictions, and it's just insane that that particular earmark of what the governor was trying to do towards um towards taking away the money from local communities and instead using it to build prisons, which is something that I almost just like just read and like I get like this like instinctual like laugh when something is very bad or I disagree with something. So I'm reading like 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 that's
No,
just one
I
of those
agree. And
things
like
that is just it's just ridiculous.
the DeWine thing turning into prisons, like if I was a billionaire or won the lottery, I'd be like having Rage Against the Machine play outside his house. Because I mean that's kind of what they want, you know what I mean? Like they'll legalize weed, but build more prisons and then make it very hard. Like we were talking, some of these laws they're trying to make it where you can't have like someone who's even high in your car with you, or you're both in trouble. And a lot of these like laws, I think one of the laws are like, because like there's no way like they could make it where if you have it on you in a car, it's illegal because like you got to bring it like to the dispensary home. Like, you just can't have it like be fully cultivator legal or like homegrown legal. Um, so we definitely have
What's
to
what's
be smart about that.
what's crazy about the car thing is that was in one of these pieces of legislation. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was SB 56, which is by far the harsher bill that's going around right now. But isn't if someone's high and you drive them home, isn't that a good thing?
If
You
they
know
were
what I
drunk, it would be, yeah. If they were drunk, it would
so
be.
so why are you punishing essentially good behavior? No, I get vice taxes. I do get vice taxes. You tax marijuana, you tax cigarettes, at 10%, and you invest that money into cancer prevention, cancer research,
Mm.
addiction services. That's totally cool. That's balancing personal freedom with the natural consequences of giving some people more personal freedom. That's the balancing act there.
Yeah.
But with the car thing, you're literally disincentivizing someone doing a good thing, which is just insane to me. It makes no sense.
Yeah, good point. Yep. And I agree. Like that's it shows that a lot of these lawmakers are out of touch with reality and like what's really going on, and which I really kind of don't like either. And we're seeing a lot with the Trump administration as well. Even with cuts, like they're cutting like cancer research and then bringing up boys of cancer as a prop to say like, oh, we care about these things. But if you really do care about these things, you would fund them, obviously. So like kind of like this, like with the state of Ohio. Um, so
Yeah, for sure. Or just honor the will of the voters. A normal non-corrupt state legislature would say, "Let's move on. We fought this fight. We lost. Let's go on to our other agenda items," which in reality in the state of Ohio is going to be, buying out nuclear power plants and stuff like that. But that at least move on. Like
mm-hmm.
instead they're actively fighting against something that again 57% of Ohioans voted for. And it's just ridiculous. And these sort of changes are not the sort of small changes that would be appropriate for an initiated statute. They're specifically designed to just overrule the will of the people, and it's wrong, regardless of how
Yeah.
you feel about recreational marijuana.
Yep. You should definitely like spending your time actually helping the people, helping constituents with what they need. Like we were saying, like maybe making it more concrete. And even then, like to me, if I was a state senator or house rep, like I don't know that much details about it even myself. So like you kind of like put your own committees on it and say like, okay, how do we concrete what they agreed on, and if we need to pass laws to help out local areas from getting taken advantage of certain things, we could do it. So, but they're not doing that.
Yeah, no, they're just trying to overturn the will of people, and entrench their own districts so that they can never lose an election. Trying to give subsidies to First Energy for nuclear power plants and coal plants that are some are not even in the state of Ohio. That's their priority right now.
Yep. And like the FBI
Any,
says, and people even say like the FBI is corrupt, but I mean, who's gonna know corruption better than the FBI then? But they
yeah,
call Ohio the most corrupt state government with DeWine, so I mean, we'll get what we get. A lot of that's because like we know like Larry Householder and First Energy, but like they're still a company. We're still using them for our energy, so it's not like many things have changed.
no, and it just goes back to, the super majorities, they breed corruption, and Ohio has been in a Republican supermajority for most, if not all, of my life. So there's no checks and balances, and it's just it breeds this kind of environment where the state government is so disconnected from what people actually want. Even when there was literally a state ballot issue where 50% of the people told them that's what we want. Like
Yeah, and
it's
they'll
just
do the same
insane.
with abortion too, and try to control it and like throw in a bunch of BS. We'll just have to keep voting on it, like we see with other states, like viability of a mother. Just we'll have to have a vote completely on that. So
What we're seeing with issue one here in Ohio is that they're trying to litigate it out of existence, and they're just going to keep appealing these cases. Just trying to you know ter- hope that the courts buy into their interpretations.
I see, yeah, which really isn't fair either. Um,
No.
but what else would they be doing? Any final touches on this one? I'm trying to think if there's anything I don't like. This basically about the state government trying to mess with stuff they shouldn't be messing with.
Yeah, I could go on about state government for probably another 2 hours, but I think this issue two fiasco that's going on right now really illustrates it all. Whether you're going back to ECOT with the private schools that were a scammer, CoinGate, or what we're seeing right now here with issue two. It just shows a pattern of legislators that are just completely disconnected from their citizens. And you can't even find these people. Like, try to call their office, see what happens. You're probably going to get an answering machine. Like
Yeah,
that's certainly true with David Joyce right now.
no, I agree, Tommy. And it's something that like we could write to them. I mean, the whole reason why like this we even have this is because we wrote to them and like passed issue two. So we kind of need to keep doing it and keep showing them that like, hey, we're still here. We still vote for you guys and can kick you out if need be. So that's probably it on the issue twos and House Bill 160 and Senate Bill 56 talk. Which was basically our two main topics for this week. We went a little bit longer than we wanted to, but that works for first. So I know we were going to say something like that was probably going to happen. Um, if you guys have any comments or anything you want to say, or just um, recommendations, feedback for the show, feedback's a gift, I always say. So make sure you put that in the comments. Like my dad was saying, too as well. Michael was saying the parks generate more revenue than they cost. It was about drilling, or it's about drilling. And that makes sense. I mean, I get like America needs to make its money back, but I don't think Bill Clinton was like drilling everywhere to do it. And like we got to be smart about it. And like I was even talking with Trevor about yesterday, like drilling in Alaska. He was like, if it's a last resort, but like that last resort is killing tundras that are hundreds of years old that have been untouched by nature. That even in themselves, like a tundra is one of the most like ecologically protected things we have, just because of what it is and how it's old marshland from hundreds of years ago that has like now moved and frozen over. It's just crazy what it is, and like we should definitely not be drilling in that if we have viable renewable solutions. So I definitely agree with that. Daddy O.
Yeah, for sure. The parks generate so much money for the federal government. And the local parks, the metro parks, they cost like they're not a significant expenditure for the county as well. Like it's just I don't know why these people are targeting these parks. Okay, I
Yeah,
don't
like
get
the
it.
levies always pass, don't they? I mean, I always pass like vote yes for the levies, but I
The
thought
metro parks had some trouble in the past with their levies. That is true, but
that's a shame.
you know, but they're talking about $160,000 ish, so it's not a lot of money for the county.
Yeah. And again, it's like even with like camping and like people wanting to go outside, becoming more popular every year. People gardening more, people living outside in nature more. Like that, something we should definitely be funding. Um, and like I
For
said
sure.
before, I hope you guys like the show. We have for live weather below us, as well as stocks that have closed today that are looking very well. So
They're
we'll,
looking
we'll
really
be
good.
we'll be keeping this up every week. We'll be here next Monday with different topics. We'll probably try to do 2 topics as well, but try to get them through a little bit quicker. This is our first show, so we're going to be a little bit slower. Coming up on Thursday at 8:30, me and my cousin Hunter will be having our sports show where we'll be talking about just a whole bunch different type of sports going on right now. College football, we're Buckeyes fans, so obviously we're happy about the national championship win. We're Browns fans, so obviously the season sucked. He'll be talking about that. I like racing a little bit more, so I'll be talking about F1, Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. F1 starts this weekend in Australia. Kind of like with this show, we're going to be having overlays with that show as well. Those overlays are really cool, just like this. I'll probably be adding some more. So, anything you want to see live while we're talking, just try to put it in the comment section. Anything you want to say before we go, Tommy?
No, just I appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to next week. What I was hoping on we could discuss next week is the Ohio, um, what people are calling the Ohio Higher Education Destruction Act that's going on right now. That'd probably be a good topic for next week. And there will always be a flow of state, local, and national news for me to talk about. So, um, thank you again for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, no problem, Tommy. I'm excited to do this with you and keep going and keep talking. Hope everyone has a good week. You could see the weather for a week below me. I'm gonna be switching to our basically our Spotify overlay for a bit while we're done. So, have a good night, everyone. Thank you for the first show. I'm excited to start off and have a great night.
Thank you.